What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and luckily for me, I actually ended up getting another brand new legend from one of the most recent tickets. I believe it was from either PKA or from the Grand Party. I can't remember which one, but either way, there was a free ticket that came out recently. I got this new Uta, of course. Remember, this is Halloween Uta. Obviously came out Halloween last year, alongside the super evolution of Corona. And a lot of people were really hyped about this unit, and just visually, the character was like a character people wanted to see, especially when you have a look at the special animation a little bit later on in the video. This character just looks really cool, but unfortunately, I definitely feel like they lacked in the design department of not only this character, but also with the super evolution of Corona that came alongside this unit. So let's go ahead and discuss this unit in its entirety and use her in a couple of different pieces of content to see how good / bad this character actually is. So let's go ahead and get started with Uta's captain ability, which she gives cooldown reduction, which is always good, and then she boosts a lot of units. She boosts Dex, Int, Cerebral, and Driven. So pretty good pool of units there. Of course, a lot of these characters will have like overlaps, you know, being both Int and Cerebral, or, you know, Dex and Driven, etc. But still, I think just the overall pool that she gets access to is quite good. And despite the fact that she does boost Int and Dex in her captain ability, most of the time you want to be focusing on her classes, because the other abilities in her kit are, you know, kind of just centered around Driven and Cerebral anyway. So it's kind of like a side thing, like, hey, if you want to use Int and Dex characters, you'll be fine. They'll get a boost from her captain ability, but hey, you probably want to focus on Cerebral and Driven. So she gives up to 5 times attack boost at a base, and then that 5 times can become 5.75 times if you attack in the order of good and then good. So essentially, the first 2 characters that you tap with are not really going to be doing that much damage, but then the characters after that will be hitting relatively hard. However, one of the big downsides to this specific design is, of course, because you are hitting 2 goods at the start of the chain, your overall chain multiplier will be a lot lower than a lot of base units as a captain. So characters that buff the chain multiplier or characters that give you chain boundary are going to be really good synergistic units alongside this Uta. However, there is another component in her special which does kind of offset a little bit in terms of what this character provides in the captain. Furthermore, also gives the units 1.2 times HP and recovery boost. I do think that recovery boosts are very underrated when a lot of people look at units. Like, if you eat a recovery slot with this unit as a captain, you're going to be healing for a pretty good amount, which is quite good. Although, you know, these days, like, healing from a recovery slot isn't as important as it was, let's say, like, you know, 5+ years ago in Treasure Cruise. On top of that, she makes strength slots matching. Her utility component in her captain is that she removes blindness completely, which, I mean, like, it's cool that she has it, but, like, let's be real, if you want to remove a utility component, you want to be removing a lot more different effects compared to just blindness. But there is an additional kind of utility effect, but it is HP based. So the way that it works is that whenever someone on your crew launches a special while you have 50% or less HP remaining, then she will remove 5 turns of enemy defense and 5 turns of your crew's attack down duration. So this is really unique, and she does have an effect in her kit that allows you to get to that 50% threshold, which is very good. So she is self-sufficient in that manner. But it is interesting, but at the same time, you know, she removes attack down and defense up via that effect in her captain. But it would have just been better if she just straight up removed attack down as a captain, like just as a base, and then an added effect to remove defensive effects while you use a special when you're below that threshold, because removing blindness isn't the most enticing, you know, reason to use a captain, honestly. There's lots of ways to get around it. Obviously, just get good, obviously skill issue. But, you know, of course, if you learn your character's tap timings, you know, blindness can be kind of a redundant debuff just in general. But either way, her captain ability is fine. Now, if you do use her as a captain, you'll get access to that superclass special ability. And the superclass special is actually quite phenomenal, all things considered. So in order to activate it, you just need to use 2 special abilities. That's it. There's no character or color or health condition. Like, there's just... You use 2 specials and you can activate it. And the effect is very good, which cuts your health by 50%, which allows you to trigger the additional effects in Uta's captain ability. You also delay all enemies for 1 turn that goes through all immunities, so very good there. Also, Cerebral and Driven characters get -2 turns of cooldown, helps you deal with special reverse potentially. as well as your cerebral and driven characters get a 2.5 times attack boost for 3 turns. So yeah, this superclass special is actually quite good. Of course, you can only use it as a captain, so that's the real downside there. It's not an EX super that you can just randomly launch as a crewmate. But another reason why this superclass ability is so strong is because it partners so well with just the kit in general. Obviously, she wants to be at that 50% or less threshold to get the additional utility in her captain. But also, when we have a look at this special ability, which at face value doesn't seem great, but if you combine all of these effects together, this character actually does provide some interesting effects. So when you look at her special ability, she removes 5 turns of silence. Now, silence, remember, is the debuff where your characters cannot be, like, you can't swipe on them, you can't activate the specials, you can't switch their dual unit effect, you can't activate versus abilities, etc. Like, silence is one of those rare debuffs. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, like, there's literally, like, no characters that remove it, except for this unit. Like, this is one of the rare units that can help you remove that. It also removes 7 turns of Rainbow Shield, which is a very nice key piece that she has there. And then she also gives you a tap timing chain growth multiplier increase. So it means if you, when you tap with a good, you actually get a 0.7 increase to your chain, and that helps offset the downside to hitting good and good in her captain ability. So I really like that she has that. And then the very interesting component, she is the only character in the game to have this specific buff, where it says for 1 turn, if you attack in the order of good and then good, then your cerebral and driven characters will receive a 2.25 times additional attack boost. Now, when you first read this, you think it's kind of like, why does she have this attack boost and then she also has an attack boost in her superclass? The thing is that this is a different type of an attack boost, and it stacks with normal attack boosts. So you can use her superclass special to give you a 2.5 times attack boost, and then her special ability, as long as you hit your good and then second good in a row, the characters after that will then receive a 2.25 times attack boost. So Uta by herself can provide such a substantial damage output for your cerebral and driven characters. But even though this buff is super unique and can grant so many, like, additional millions upon millions of damage to your team, I just don't really think this is going to be a character that's going to see a ton of play in, like, let's say a Super Boss Kizuna. This character's been out for quite a few Super Boss Kizunas, and she really hasn't seen a ton of play. I mean, it doesn't really help that the Driven class is kind of mediocre, and really not a lot of people pulled on this character's debut, so not a lot of people are really going to have this unit anyways. But if you think about some of the potential that this unit could have, you know, potentially stacking it with Cross Guild to get, you know, set target status for your Driven characters, versus Kaido, which we do feature a little bit in this video too, is a very good unit that you could potentially use alongside this Uta as well. So I think that this Uta really has a lot of potential, and I mean, even if this unit doesn't see a ton of play, the fact that this character has these rare abilities leads me to believe that I would hope that this type of effect is going to be used a little bit more in the future, which is going to, again, further our damage a lot more. So that's going to wrap it up for me. I think Uta's a really interesting legend. Not a character I'm going to use a ton, but definitely a really cool unit to have either way. So hopefully you enjoyed this video today. If you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Other than that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.